Yes, thank you very much for this amazing event. You know, it feels like it's definitely changed my perception of what Zoom can, bring into the practice and just my life in general, because it seems that I've attended so many Zoom meetings, and nothing could actually compare to this. So thank you for having me. And I guess the highlight for me, and I must be honest, I've only attended the sessions today because I wasn't able to join you yesterday, was definitely the diversity of views and opinions. So there wasn't like a linear view of what digital youth work is or where it should be heading. It seems to be quite complex and diverse, and I really like that. Hearing that during our chat session earlier today. So that's definitely the highlight for me. Also, in the way I think and I research digital youth work. So thank you again for having me.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Alicya. Can we go to Darren? Darren, would you like to share a highlight?
A highlight for me was that the Matterport virtual walkthrough of the makerspace works on Zoom, because I didn't know if it was or it was going to crash until we actually tried it out. But that's why I'm interested in all the kind of digital activities, and that's why it interests me so much, because there's so much new territory to discover and things to try out that you don't know if it's going to work or not. So it keeps things exciting, live without a safety net. So that was a highlight for me, that people got to see the makerspace in Paisley without having to leave their home, and it didn't crash, so it was stable. So great. Yeah, Zoom, what a platform.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Darren. Can we go to Ali? Do you want to share a highlight?
Yeah.
Not getting any sleep, perhaps?
Oh yeah, awesome, Darren. It's great to see you kind of truly embracing the kind of design thinking mindsets of optimism and embracing ambiguity to go, actually, I'm going to try this and it may or it may not work. And you know what? I'm all right with that. I think for me, that's one of the biggest highlights is the community that I've felt part of in the last couple of days. And I've seen that, I guess, in a couple of ways. It's the way that folks have been open to each other's ideas and experiences in ways that I've not really kind of felt in the sector maybe so much. So, that's a real hope that maybe some of the optimism that we've all talked about what kind of life might be like post-COVID. If there's any sense of that kind of oneness and ideas being able to flow equally between people and all lifting each other up, then if that's a sign of what's to come, then I'm incredibly optimistic about the future.
Thank you, Ali. That's fantastic. And can we go to Tim? Do you have a highlight from the last couple of days?
Sure. Well, in case I forget, one of my highlights is well done to everybody that put this together. For one thing, that's just been fantastic, and so well done to Hilary and YouthLink team. I know many other partners as well to make it happen. So I really appreciate that. It was a big ask with everything else that's going on at the minute in the sector. I think my highlight is the agile, experimental nature of this. And trying things out. So hearing from people saying, well, I tried this and I tried that. And isn't that what youth work's always been about? A combination of that, trying things, not worrying too much about it, but it's about the people. It's about the relationships. And so that's what I've liked in terms of some of the feedback that I've heard from other people, is that they've really enjoyed the sense of community. And that's very much at the heart of what youth work's about. And so for me, that's a step forward as well. There would have been a few years ago when we were doing digital things and there was still a kind of strong bit within the sector that was saying, oh, don't interfere with the face-to-face youth work and the flip chart. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about: group work, flip chart, and face-to-face. And I think there's an appreciation that we can have both, and it's not either or. We can have all of these possibilities. So yeah, hugely encouraged by everything that's going on, and we've got a mixed group here, which is good to see as well. So it's not all just 44% hadn't really done much digital youth work before 2020. That's a really good thing for me. That's saying that we are speaking out and reaching out and learning from each other as a sector. So yeah, I could go on, as you know, Hilary, but I'll stop there.
Well, you'll get a second bite of the cherry, okay? So what we're going to do just now is it would be great to hear from lots and lots of people, but obviously so many folk in the room just now. We just asked these four folk to be kind of like a bit of a panel, but they could possibly take some questions, okay? But what we'll do just now is if we could go back round the four of you and just with the question, what is next for Digital Youth Work? So it's just a chance to give us kind of one thing that you think is going to be really, really important in the next few months or the next year or so. And then while they are doing that, if people do have questions that you think are kind of really kind of core questions that you would like one of those four folk to have a shot at answering, then please type those in the chat and we'll take a few of them. Okay, so can't promise to do all of those, but we'll do that for 5 minutes, and then we're going to finish up with a fun retro board where you can just put up your thoughts and ideas around a couple of themes. Okay, and we'll finish up probably about 3:45. Okay, depending on how long these people speak, of course. Okay, so who shall we go first with then? Darren, would you like to come in with what next for Digital Youth Work?
What next for Digital Youth Work? I suppose from what we were discussing this morning about STEM and taking the people through one of the exercises that we do at the Makerspace, we touched on digital disruption. And that being a word that is, again, there's lots of new words and things getting battered about now, but digital disruption is again one of those overused words, but it does fit the bill. You know, formal education's getting disrupted through technology. Traditional industries within Scotland are getting disrupted because of the technology, and youth work going forward, particularly coming through the pandemic and the recovery phase, is going to be disrupted. So that the future for digital youth work is to, you know, touch again on what Tim had said about this dualism. There is no, you know, traditional youth work and digital youth work that run separate from each other. They're intertwined, they're integrated. It's just another way to engage and develop those relationships with young people in that space where they populate, which is where our remit is to support and help and develop and challenge and empower. So for me, this is the future of digital youth work. For me is an exciting period that we're at. We're at a place where we can try out and experiment, and we need leaders and organisations and boards to provide a safe space for practitioners and frontline workers to be able to try out things. And half of those things are going to probably not work, but it's through that learning journey that we will then start to pick up and understand where we need to support better, not just our profession, but also young people as they are challenged through Brexit and, you know, unemployment and everything else. It's just it's a changing world, and it's exciting to see what's going to happen with our profession going forward. And, you know, when you look at the surveys that have been done, you know, and we look at maybe 10 years from now or 20 years from now, there's a great part of youth work that will not be recognised as the way that we deliver it today, and that's exciting to see what that's going to look like.
Okay, thank you, Darren. I think you have a better imagination than me, because I always think things are going to stay the same, and it's really exciting to have that kind of sense of progress and what it's going to be like in the future. Ali, would you like to come in? What's next for Digital Youth Work? I know I asked you that question at the beginning of the whole conference. Have you changed your mind, or
no, I haven't. So still kind of 3-4 areas. One sort of, it's all under the umbrella of upskilling. You know, that's what comes next. We cannot afford to stand still. You know, like I think Tim said, the thing about never being at a time where things have been as fast, and never been at a time again where things will be as slow. That's not going away, you know, so we've just got to keep pushing on. So things like training, policy, practice, you know, maybe a bit boring, but this is the groundwork and the foundations that we need. for digital youth work. So focus really for me is on staff and volunteers. It's about that kind of frontline experience of being able to go out and try things and deliver things. Managers helping with the policy and you know, providing the environment for the workers to grow and to try and to test. Board, as Darren said, and the leadership in organisations embracing this new world, and that's a big ask in a lot of ways, you know, because there's a lot of things to learn and it's easy to learn, but there's also a lot of things to unlearn, and it's ridiculously hard to unlearn things when they've been patterns for so long. And the last thing, I'm really curious to see what funders and commissioners of work are going to make of all of this, because it's all right in a pandemic panic and a worry, but what about next year? You know, what about the planning and the future work? You know, how is that going to be funded and commissioned? And, you know, is there going to be that radical disruption stuff in there? But most of all, I guess, I want to know what young people want and need from us and how we can serve them in this, you know, and it's all right to say, yeah, we're upskilling, but we must never, ever, ever lose sight of the fact we're in this for young people. So we've got to have that consistent conversation with them to say, inspire us, challenge us, move us forward, and then be ready to answer that challenge.
Okay, thanks so much, Ali. And we'll go straight to Alicya. So what's next for digital youth work? I know that, I mean, a lot of your work is around kind of trying to help us all figure that out. But it'd be great to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a very interesting question, and it's also a question which we recently explored during the Digital Youth Workers Expert Hurdle, and this is something that we collectively discussed, and we actually thought about the question: what will the digital youth work look like in 2019? I think that was the exercise that we did, so I can share a blog post later on. But there was a mixture of opinions, one of which we could think about the future in a very positive way, thinking about the digital youth work becoming more participatory and youth driven in a sense. So there was the positive vision, whereas at the same time we also had the negative vision of what could potentially happen with the increased power of tech giants, and also the AI kind of becoming the next big youth worker. So there was lots of, for me as a researcher and as a practitioner, it's a constantly shifting landscape. And I think the recent crisis has shown the importance of youth work and digital youth work, the practice that has been undermined for a number of years when you think about the budget cuts. And I think it kind of shows you that youth work, and digital youth work in particular, has become this essential space for young people to share their fears, to explore their identities through this crisis. So my big hope is that digital youth work and youth work in general will become a serious matter, in a sense that we won't just kind of push it to the side and say, okay, there's the digital giants and you know, they're just going to produce some apps and we're going to use them. But I really hope that we are going to also expect some responsibility from the tech giants themselves. So we talked a lot about you know, digital youth workers having enough training and you know, having access, and it seems to me that there's lots of responsibility put on the digital youth workers themselves or on the young people, and it seems to me that there should be more responsibility put on the tech giants and how they you know, create these technologies and how they introduce these technologies to us. So that's my hope, that there will be a shift and that we will be able to expect more proactive approach from the tech giants. And yes, to learn more about the future of digital youth work, I would also encourage you to participate in the 5-minute survey, and I'm sharing the link in the chat. So once I've got the outcomes, I'll be able to provide you with a clearer picture, not just my thoughts. So thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so keep sharing that link, Alicya. I really appreciate it, and delighted to see that lots of other people are using the chat for self-promotion or organizational promotion or something along those lines. So do please share things, especially if they're free. Okay, delighted that the big data show that we mentioned this morning is free. Delighted that YSLP is free if you're in Scotland. So I know one or two of you from outside of Scotland. I'm disappointed that you can't join in with that one, but it's great that we can share all the resources that we have. So while we're doing promotion, digitalyouthwork.scot, new website, a place for people to come to find the resources that they need. And one of the things that I want to do, if I can manage to get my head around it in the next couple of weeks, is use some of the content from our summit to build out a bit of a knowledge base. And I'm saying this out loud, partly so that it happens. Yeah, do please go and have a look at the site and contribute thoughts and ideas about what will make it good. Okay, Tim, would you like to come in with what's next for Digital Youth Work?
Sure. I'd like to come in first of all by changing the question, because that's the classic community education, community development thing to do. So it's what's next for youth work. I think that's the point, isn't it? And one of the challenges has been that actually digital has been sitting off to the side, and that's frustrated me hugely. I can tell you that from the right back in 2007, I was trying to get it more strongly into the National Youth Work Strategy back then. Now it's a case of that it will be there, you know, it's just going to be there, clearly marked. And I think that's come from the initial co-production sessions we did with young people and with youth workers pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, 19, digital was already flagged by the sector as something that we needed to move forward in. So I think it's what's next for youth work, not just what's next for digital youth work. I think it will be part of that. And likewise, I would say it's what's next for young people as well, and what's next for their education, their learning and their development, because it's not just about what's in the National Youth Work Strategy. It's in so many national strategies. It's in education, in leisure, in so many other places. So we want to ensure that a youth work approach as well is in those spaces. And so when there are the reframing of education, as other people have mentioned today, and thinking about that differently, we want to ensure that youth work and that approach is taken to that. So that's a big part for me. Some other specifics, you know, smart youth work hasn't been mentioned there now, but the idea that it's not just about the practice of youth work, but it's actually about how we take data, how we understand it. We know about all the kind of tech behind the SQA exams, and that was maybe the bad side of smart data, but there's lots of positive sides as well that we could be thinking about and using. Then it's a thing about inclusion and social inclusion and social isolation. So again, that's in the round. It's not just a digital thing, is it? It's something around inequality and poverty that I think the youth work sector has a big role to play in. We've heard about the Digital Inclusion Fund, Connecting Scotland. There are many other work around that. So we need to make sure that the youth work practice is part of that process. Then there's the issue of skills. Everybody's talked about that. Skills for young people in terms of STEM and in terms of some of the sort of employability skills that young people need for the future, but also in terms of cyber resilience, cyber hygiene, protect young people having the kind of the rights and the ethics and the understanding of protecting their privacy, all of that. And the ethics and values then of the workforce. Again, we have the CLD kind of code of ethics, which the Standards Council hold, but we also have these digital ethics and principles as well that we've developed across Europe. So how do these things start to merge? How do we understand this together as part of our culture? And then maybe finally, just to say that, you know, not all digital youth work is good. We know that, you know, there's issues there. There are issues for young people around the use of social media technology and Instagram. So we don't want to get into that place where we're looking at this in any way naively. You know, we are starting to see signs of some of the negative mental health aspects of misuse of some of that technology. So we need to be very conscious of that. But likewise, it's not all bad. So we need to kind of, you know, I was at a session this morning and it was actually, had the opportunity to present some questions to the Deputy First Minister and to the President of COSLA around mental health and wellbeing in particular. And despite the stats not being great at the moment in terms of the impact of lockdown on young people, one of the interesting things was that for those with neurodevelopmental issues as young people, actually some of the pressure of not being in a school setting and working from home actually really worked well for some of them. And I'm again, as soon as you generalize, that will be wrong for someone else, but it's that perception that actually blended learning or different opportunities for young people working from their home could really work for them. So it's not all good, it's not all bad, and it's about how we understand it and make sense of it, and make sure that policy and strategy and resource supports all of that.